Hello everybody, Jesse here from Jess-Inspired. You guys are welcome to the second video of my Django series, and today we'll be discussing about the Django project structure in its basics, right? So Django has this infamy for being overwhelming for beginners because of the files that it creates for you out of the box. That's why this video is important, because we're going to walk you through some of the basic files and their essentials and how you can use them in your Django project setup, okay? So it doesn't seem overwhelming to you. So without further ado, guys, let's just get started. So guys, from our previous video, we started a new Django project, which you can see right here. And if I open up my files, you also see it right here. And in this folder, we had at least 3 items. We had this folder, which was the same name as the parents. We had this other one, db.sqlite tree, showing that we are using SQLite as our default database. And then there was manage.py for running administrative tasks, which we'll talk about. Inside this other folder, you notice that we had a bunch of other files, which we are going to be centering on majorly today. But then, before we get into all this, I'd just like us to understand some terminology so we can flow better, okay? So the initial folder, which is this one that was created when Django administered project was executed, is actually called the root directory. Okay, so this is the root, as the name suggests. Every other thing is inside it, okay? You have this other folder that shares the same name as the root. You have this one that signifies we're using SQLite as our default database. You also have the manage.py. All of them are inside the root directory. Now, this other directory that you see here is called the project package. And let that name not amaze you. It's just a Python package, as you can see right here, that you have the init.py to signify it's a Python package. But then it's the project's package in the sense that it contains the core configurations that you'll be using for your project. Now, something else to note is that the root directory can be renamed. Okay, so I can rename this to maybe the name of my application. Say the application I'm building is called maybe ChatGPT. I could rename this to ChatGPT. It wouldn't affect the running of my project. But then it's not best practice to rename the project's package, because as we'll look into the settings.py and other things, right, the name has already been configured to use _base. So as a result of that, renaming this would cause lots of issues all throughout your application. So it's not just best practice to do that. Howbeit, you can rename the root directory and customize it to the name of the application you're building. I hope that makes sense. So let's just quickly talk about the files outside the project package. The first of them is our database file. Now, there are a bunch of ways to view what's inside this file, but I recommend this extension, right? This one. Yeah, for viewing. It gives you a graphical user experience of viewing your database. So if I come right here and I right click on this and I say open database, it should bring out this at the bottom, SQLite Explorer. So I'm going to click on this and then right click and show stable SQLite master, just like that. So once I do this, I can close this one. You notice that it gives me access to see the tables that have been created right here. And remember when we initially started, when we ran the migrate command, right, I told you that some tables were being created in the database. So you can see those tables here for the auth, which you can see right here for auth. You can see the ones for admin, right? You can see for content type, is for admin. You can see for content type, and also, yeah, so the initial tables that were created right here, you can be able to view them. And going forward, all the tables that are created, you can also be able to view them using this extension. So I hope that makes sense. Something else to note is that db.sqlite tree is created automatically whenever you run the migrate command. So you don't need to do anything special to create it. It's automatically created whenever you try to run migrations. And next is the manage.py file. So as we can see here, it says it's Django's command line utility for administrative tasks. Now, if this sounds complex for you, basically it's just Django's remote control. So every command that you would need to run on Django, you would need to specify the manage.py file first. So if you want to run a development server like we saw, you need to do Python 3 manage.py run server. If you want to migrate, you have to put the manage.py and migrate also. So basically everything you want to do, you need to specify this file, okay, because this gives you access to your settings, as you can see right here, to your settings. It also gives you access to the environment, okay, that you have specified your Django project. So it gives you access to your settings, gives you access to your environment, gives you access to Django's built-in commands for administrative tasks. So that's how Django basically works. So for every command you want to run, you make sure to put the manage.py file because it's a helper file that helps you run administrative tasks. Hope that makes sense. Now let's proceed into our projects package and specifically the settings.py file, which is arguably the most consequential file you have here. Now this file, basically, it's more like the brain box or the spinal cord or the control panel of your project. So it helps you define, connect, and manage all the settings in your projects. As you can see right here, you have settings concerning security here, the quick start development settings, which you can see here, right? You also have the settings that help you define your application definition, including installed apps, middleware. You see the settings for URLs, the settings for templates, the settings for your server. All right, you also have the settings for your database. So this is where we see that SQLite 3 is being used as the default database. So you specify it here. If you're using Postgres or something else, you're also going to specify it in here. You also see settings that pertain to your password validation, as you can see. Here you also see settings for internationalization. You can see language, code, time zone, and all that. You can also see settings for static files. You can see settings for your primary key field type, basically. So this file is, like I told you, it's like the brain box. It's like the control panel, right? It helps you define, connect, and manage all the important settings in your project. Now we have the URLs file. Now this file happens to be the main URL manager of your Django project. Okay, so going forward, we are going to learn about app-specific URL files, but for now, we are dealing with the one inside our project's package. And not to bug you with much technicalities, basically, whenever you visit a site, let's say, for example, my site/admin, whatsoever happens when you visit that route is what we define inside this list URL patterns. So right now we have this path admin, and when you visit this site, whatever you have inside this admin.site.urls is what will be displayed on your screen. So basically this manages what happens whenever you visit routes. So I hope that made sense. So let me just show you what this looks like. So guys, as you can see, I have Django welcome page opened up on my right, and I want to put in the route admin. Okay. So you see that it opens up the admin page, the Django administration page. If I should go ahead now to change this to cPanel, for example, and I save this, let me try to reload this. You see that it gives me a 404 because the route no longer exists. Okay, but if I should go ahead and I should change the route to cPanel, you now see that I have the Django administration page as I had before. So guys, you can see that these URL patterns that you see here and the path specifies exactly what happens whenever you visit a route. So finally, two files we aren't going to stress ourselves that much on is the WSGI and the ASGI file, simply because they become important when we want to deploy to a production environment, not in a development environment. Howbeit, it's important we understand what they stand for. So WSGI stands for Web Server Gateway Interface, while ASGI stands for Asynchronous Server Gateway Interface. So as their acronym suggests, both of them are interfaces in the sense that they are protocols that determine how web servers interact with your Django applications. But then there's a catch. WSGI actually handles traditional applications, okay? So like your normal blog applications or just basically any application that handles a request per time. while ASGI handles asynchronous requests. Okay, so if your application involves handling asynchronous requests, it's better to use ASGI because that's basically what it was created for. But we won't be bothering ourselves with this right now because we are using the run server command, which doesn't make use of this, but this will become important when we want to deploy to a production environment. Yeah, just to buttress what I was saying, if you look at your development server, you see this warning, which I want to highlight. Okay, so it says this is a development server. Do not use it in a production setting. Use a production WSGI or ASGI server instead. Alright guys, so that's it for the Django project structure. I hope this video helped you, and if you did, please don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new here, please also don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment if there's something you want me to handle, or if there's something you think I missed. I'm also willing to learn from you, right? Yeah, so that's it from me for now guys. I'll see you in the next one.